really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbiff Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14 Pro Day, a bit of National, Champions and Challenge Cups, French national team, and of course all the brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, characters that make the French game so splendid. Today we've got a big episode coming up. We'll be joined a little bit later on by former Wasps, Harlequins, and now DAC second row Charlie Matthews. Before then, though, we're back with our man on the ground. Rob, you have just returned from Bordeaux. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Slightly concerned I'm going to come down with something, which ahead of going back out to France later this week is not great. But other than that, I'm okay. I had a very good weekend, very enjoyable weekend.
And you're also, importantly, your wardrobe must be fit to bursting. There's going to have to be some sort of clear out, right? You're adorned in something new again.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking about that actually. That I probably need the clear out that you sort of had a few weeks ago. But yeah, I've got the CA Bergler jersey, which there were quite a few people wearing them in the ground. They're kind of on sale this season. It's just it's just simply the badge and the quarters. It's not I don't know how much. I don't think it was ever worn, as it were, but it was just a blooming nice jersey, and I really wanted it. And I really like the logo, and as I mentioned last week, love the nicheness of it. Like a club that kind of doesn't really exist. Well, doesn't exist anymore. No one knows. Like, you got to really know what you're looking for when you see CABBG. Yeah,
like it. We may as well go straight into it, and not just to talk about how Exeter are eventually going to rumble Montpellier in Bilbao on a Friday night. But you were in the ground for what was kind of touted as, well, probably the biggest club rugby game of the year. It was quite an occasion, and you had first-hand look. Tell us about, well, maybe to start with, tell us about the Stade Chaban Delmas and the hoodoo Bordeaux Bègles fans will be glad to hear is finally over.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my main takeaway is that them winning. So this was the fifth time that I've been to Stade Chaban Delmas to watch UBB, and the first time that they'd won, having lost to some pretty bang average teams in the past. My main takeaway was that the post-match was not really that different. I mean, we've seen it where they just go for it afterwards, no matter what. They just party. You know, it's their big day out, and everyone's there for a party. And that was exactly the same. I think that people stayed in the seats for much longer. I think, like, we were there for about 20 minutes after the game, and only then, once the kind of full lap of honour had been done, did kind of people start to properly file out. But yeah, there was a lot of, obviously, the celebrations and all that, and the singing in the stands was what was different, I guess. And it's the energy of the fans and sections of the fans. I don't know how they did it for that long. It's just constant, and yeah, the enthusiasm with which people sing and keep chanting is really quite phenomenal.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic ground. I think the atmosphere, and also, like, architecturally, it's like none of the others in France. It's quite an amazing place to go to. Rob, the game itself was quite something, and I think everyone, certainly from a sort of pundit's perspective, was a bit breathless at the end, despite maybe a slightly iffy first half, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, Bordeaux reasonably comfortable on the score sheet, winners in the end. A little bit of, I was going to say, kind of reparations for the top 14 final, but perhaps that's just for the top 14 itself. The game itself was fantastic. What are your kind of initial takeaways? And anything that you saw? Because I think we were WhatsApping a little bit, and sometimes the perspective can be quite different, right, on telly versus the ground. Is there anything that really stood out to you being there that swayed it one way or another?
I think it definitely, I don't know how you gauge this, but it felt like a game where someone watching it in the ground or someone watching it on TV could have a very different opinion to someone watching it on the ground. And I can't quite put my finger on why and whether that's always the case or not. But I felt slightly injusticed for Toulouse. I thought Toulouse were really good, and they were arguably the better team. And I don't quite know how I kind of gauge that, but I just thought that some of the best players on the pitch were Toulouse players, and Bordeaux kind of just had it. The things that went well for them happened in like key moments, and they took their chances, and ultimately Toulouse kind of their indiscipline in terms of the cards cost them, because when Dupont was off, that was what changed it. Like it suddenly felt like Toulouse could achieve anything with him on the pitch, and then for 10 minutes when they were down to 13, I think for all of it or for a good chunk of it, and without him on the pitch, they suddenly like seemed slightly kind of not fallible, but like the inspiration and will kind of perhaps wasn't quite there, wasn't quite at the same level, and they kind of and it energized Bordeaux, and that's what gave Bordeaux the belief, and it felt like the crowd were behind them. Like, yeah, it's really hard not to speak in cliches when you're talking about the being in Stade Mont-de-Marsan and the fans and stuff like that, but once Dupont went off and they kind of scored a try pretty soon after that, it felt inevitable from that point that Bordeaux were going to win, because the crowd had full belief, and it felt like the belief had been sucked out of Toulouse. I don't know how that felt on TV, but
yeah, I think towards the end it felt like it was inevitable. Is probably a little bit unfair, because actually it was still pretty tight, wasn't it? It was like a one-score game with 10 minutes left. Before they just pull away ever so slightly towards the end. On the Toulouse performance, I get where you're coming from. I think particularly in the first half, that first 20 minutes when it was scoreless, it was kind of all Toulouse, and Bordeaux showed a little bit. But
some of Bordeaux's defence was absolutely phenomenal.
It was, yeah, and I think that's the thing.
I was like, how on earth have they stopped that?
I think that's the thing to call out, is that as much as ultimately that was it. And Manny Miafu was interviewed by Ben Youngs and Dan Cole afterwards, and effectively said, like, for that sort of the possession they had, they didn't get far enough ahead on the scoreboard, which is obvious when a team then rolls back and scores whatever it is, 30 points in the second half, 25 points in the second half. But I think that's true, and as you say, like, I mean, we'll talk about him in a minute. Jack Willis was unbelievable, and his breakdown work was sublime. But so was Bordeaux's for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
In the first half, Jefferson Poirot single-handedly has stopped dead a load of attacks. You're right, the Maul defence was excellent.
Woki.
I thought Woki was brilliant. Parlew and Coleman again are just like, it just seems to be getting better and better. And I think, yeah, that kind of Toulouse, if not utter dominance, but the Toulouse quality possession didn't quite eventuate into the results. Also, just the results we're so used to seeing for Toulouse, right? Like, when they're like that, it's usually irresistible, and there's only one result. And I think it's testament to how much better a side Bordeaux have become over the last 18 months that wasn't the case here.
Yeah, I think like that you're right about that, like the Maul, because we kind of said in the week, and I was fairly adamant throughout that Ramos's goal kicking was going to make the difference, and they had a pretty easy shot at 3. I thought, cup rugby, take your points, and that first Maul, or very early on, it looked like, well, this is inevitable. They're going to score. They've got a great setup, and Bordeaux somehow stopped it. And I think there was just a couple of key things where it felt like, well, Toulouse is just going to score here, and they didn't. And the fact that Bordeaux were the first team to score after 25 minutes or whatever, and their Maul actually looked pretty like inevitable. That looked like they were going to get over. I think Toulouse did have some phenomenal defence of their own just before that. So we were that end. We were the end that, and we were behind the post. So like quite a lot of the action in the second half, you kind of can't see it all. So it's, perhaps don't have some of the detail on some of the stuff, but you can kind of, those kind of two big mauls towards that end. And when Bordeaux scored, Toulouse had repelled them, but Bordeaux then looked fairly inevitable to score theirs. It's also like you can't gauge depth. It's really hard to gauge depth from where we were. We weren't particularly high up. So like when Luku was lining up the penalty on like 60 minutes, that I was like, he's kicking that from like the 22, isn't it? Like, or like felt like he was about 15 meters inside his own half. But from that, you talk about the inevitable thing. Like from that point, I turned to my girlfriend and said, if the score stays the same, he will win man of the match, because I don't know. From that point, it felt like he was in control. He dictated it. Dupont was off or had been off, and yeah, he kind of guided the ship when Dupont wasn't there for Toulouse.
Yeah, I
The
thought
other
both. Sorry,
go
go
on.
for it. I
No,
was just going to say I thought both scrum halves. I know obviously the headline is the Pont Yellow, but I thought both of them were exceptional.
the
Defensively, unbelievable. Kicking from hand, the standard was remarkable. And maybe there weren't quite the glimmers in attack, but I think that was more testament to the nature of the game. I feel like in the whole match, there are a couple of like standout areas, particularly early on, and poor old Dorian with his with his red card. But to me, it was one of those games. It just felt like there were so many players who had like a high kind of 8 out of 10 match, and that was why it didn't. There was some brilliant sparks of attacking brilliance and like the try to lose and at the end of the first half and Jalabert's like little chip through, but it just felt like one of those games that was so much more compelling for the fact that the two defenses were so robust, and there were some standouts, but ultimately like the kind of floor level of performance was pretty phenomenal across the board.
Yeah, I think the weaker players kind of stood out quite a lot, like Aldeghiri being one of them. I think like Uberti, like not great defensively and not great generally. And if you looked at the two sides before the game, you'd be like they're the two weak links maybe. That just fucking drive by on those guys there from me. That Toulouse try at the end of the first half was a thing of just it makes you speechless. It was so quick and so perfectly executed. Like to see it in the flesh was just wow. That is perfection. It was so slick. Yeah. So that's what I was gonna say. With obviously our vantage point being so far away from it, the DuPont yellow card, is it for offside?
No, it's for a trip.
For a trip on who?
Yeah. On who was it who was going over who was carrying to get over the line? So he gets held up by Willis, doesn't
By
he?
Willis
Who
and
was it?
Dupont. Yeah.
I can't, yeah, but it was for a trip. He sticks out a foot.
Oh.
It's
Well,
the sort of action. It's 100% a yellow card. It's the
okay.
sort of thing. I'm glad to hear that clearly the rest of your trip was exploring Bordeaux and not looking at gammy highlights on YouTube. Yeah, it was one of those things
Well,
in real
I
time. I
have
don't
watched the
think
highlights, but they don't show the yellow. They don't show the yellow on the highlights.
Village. Yeah, it's one of those things you don't really see in normal time. I think it's one of those trips where it's like the player, who was it? Was it Retier? No, because Retier goes on to score the try. I can't remember who the ball carrier was who gets held up. It's one of those where they step inside, the Pont's kind of going outside. It like you sometimes see it where it's deliberate, but it's not like a slide tackle.
Yeah.
And I also think it's relatively inconsequential in the final reckoning of the ball getting held up, but it is 100% a yellow card.
Okay.
I think Malvaca, who was also tracking back on that play, is offside and potentially is arguably more of an offence. But yes,
Yeah,
it was
because
for that rather than
I
offside.
thought he was like in front of the last foot, and then because of that, he was able to make a more dominant hit and prevent whoever it was
No, I don't.
scoring. But but yeah, you couldn't hear that. And ironically, as one of the few people that would have been able to perfectly understand Matthew Carley in the ground, I couldn't hear him. Oh, I didn't hear that anyway. And I don't think I'd even realised he'd got yellow carded without wanting to go full Chris Kamara on it. But I was able to hear quite clearly the Matthew Carley because they play it over the loudspeaker. Though I don't know about the quality of that. The red card and watching the replay, initial thought was like, oh well, there's been a clash there. That's quite nasty. Then it's like my girlfriend was like, is he gone a bit football there? As Penno milked it, basically. And then there's that one angle where it's like, no, that is shoulder to head. From that point, it's like, well, he's getting a red card here.
I've got to say,
it's just a bizarre, it's a weird moment.
I think weird is the right word. I do feel a bit for Aldegheri in the sense that we've spoken about.
You're an Aldegheri sympathiser, Richard. That's
Well,
what
I
you are.
think he's like he's had it. I say it's not his fault. There are not many good French tight heads, and he keeps getting trotted out. I think it's more the fact that his game in the loose is so far behind, like so many modern props. the fact in this one, he's found himself in the outside centre channel, busting a gut, and is clearly trying to to kind of influence the the defense, and gets it so wrong. I think the reason I feel a little bit sorry for him is that it's the sort of, it's not like he's gone like the CJ Stander flying elbow into, was it Pat Lammy all those years ago, that sort of thing. He kind of like he sort of half jumps in. It's like half a rubbish block, but when you're 20 stone, and like it just goes, it goes so much more wrong than it should do. It looks, on first glance, I'm kind of with what you're saying there. It looks like one of those blocks. It's cynical, it's silly, it's a penalty, maybe a yellow card, and then you see it and you're like, Dorian, what have you done? Like, he also gets himself off the floor. He like jumps. Like, if he just stands there, it has the same effect of disrupting the play. I just think, yeah, sums it up. It was, what was remarkable after that as well is I don't think there was a scrum until the 20 minute period had elapsed, which, given how many scrums there were in the first half an hour, and I think obviously it had an effect overall, but I think actually the effect was diminished slightly because they didn't have to whip off Cross or Willis or Jelonch or I don't know, whoever it would have been. But not no, it's not been a great few months for Dorian Aldegheri.
Yeah, Merkler, by the way, is absolutely enormous. I know of their rugby players are all enormous. He looks big. He looks real big. I thought also the way they played with Dupont off the field, like rotating Willis and Ramos as a scrum half, was quite impressive. Willis was just this. He was amazing. His speed at some of the turnover work is barely believable when you see it live. And you just find yourself going around, just so many involvements. I was like, Willis again. He was magnificent. I thought Dupont was really, really good. Just the way he danced, he was proper. There was a lot of talk from the guys in the Times have spoken about it quite a lot recently, about the kind of, is it Pierre Villepreux kind of school of rugby? If you go forward, but if you can't find space, you go sideways to find space. And the way that Dupont does that, kind of skips along the line and is just eyeing things up, is it's like a matador. It's really, really cool to see. We spoke about it over text as well. Entermac had a really good game.
Yeah,
he looked really assured. I can see why people love the kind of calmness, and we both saw him at Stade de France against South Africa, and that we saw the other side of it where it doesn't look quite as good, and it looks slow and apathetic. But I thought he looked really, really good, and I thought Ramos. The other thing, being end on, you don't see everything, right? You don't have a perfect view of everything, but you can appreciate how Ramos covers the turf. Just his involvements and how he gets around the park and is just always in play. He's always involved, which for a fullback is relatively rare. I think he's amazing. I love watching him play. He's just, what a rugby player. He's just so intelligent. I've just spoken about 4 or 5 Toulouse players there. Bordeaux won. Woki won Oscar of the Week in Midi Olympique.
Okay.
Luku, yeah, you're right. Just again, like Dupont, like he made so many tackles, puts his like head in the spokes quite a lot.
I think it was 30 tackles between them or something like that. Yeah. I think they were both the highest tackle count.
Around the fringes as well. He's just so sharp, and he's a lovely, lovely player to watch. I think there's a few people kind of being like, oh, Luku better than Dupont, like semi-jokingly, or like outplayed Dupont. I think that's just because of the yellow card. I think other than that, they were both excellent. Jalibert, I wouldn't necessarily, I was like blown away, but he just, the injection of pace in everything he does, you kind of really notice kind of a spark when he gets like on the ball, as kind of, he is intent on making something happen here. He is intent on attacking. Like, you kind of really feel that. The one thing that we were underwhelmed by, both me and my girlfriend, because he'd been given a big hype up by people that we'd spoken to the previous day. Louis Bielbiere finally shackled.
Yeah, it's quiet, wasn't it? That initial hack through, when you're like, oh my god, the speed that guy is moving is freakish.
Surely that's a yellow card penalty try as well. Yeah, I was obviously around quite a lot of people that thought that.
It's one of those. I think Entermac knows what he's doing, but he disguises it very, very well.
He knows what he's doing. We've seen him given.
We've seen him given.
It's coming together. It's coming together.
He was shackled a little bit, and I think Jalibert maybe slightly less influential in terms of those like just kind of multiple attacking moments. I thought defensively he was excellent again, which has become a
Yeah.
real feature. And again, some of his kicking from hand
The
was
kit, the 50-22 is
it's
ridiculous.
gone miles.
Yeah.
Like
And he's like on the
yeah,
back foot, isn't he? Like
yeah,
he's kind of
it's a
like
line
it's
out turnover, but
instinctive.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's brilliant. And some of his, even small bits like some of his touch finders from penalties were
Yeah.
superb. And there's that, the little chip through that kind of the collision and then he goes over. I thought it was, and I think again that the point I was trying to make around that kind of 8 out of 10s across the board game, like it wasn't a match where it was particularly easy for any back to absolutely sparkle. Although I thought Rayassi was really good again. What a signing he's been.
He was in the Midi Olympique Team of the Week at 15, ahead of Ramos.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
I can see an argument for that, but
Yeah.
yeah, Ramos was very good. The two other guys I just want to briefly for Bordeaux call out. And I mentioned it to you before. We spoke about Parlu and Coleman. It felt like a game for some of the slightly less heralded names. I mean, Timo Mathieu. There's been a lot of talk. Bordeaux bench was fantastic. Mathieu, I thought looked so high class. Like some of his carrying, he took a high ball at one point, and you're like, blimey, he's a very
He's
very
giant.
skillful
He looks
player.
he's a lot
Yeah,
taller in the flesh than you. I mean, Woki is just towering over even like makes Coleman look normal sized. I think Coleman is technically taller than him, but yeah, they all look giants. Like a lot of the
yeah.
Bordeaux pack.
Bosch Tom was very good in the back row as
Yeah,
well.
really good.
Very feisty. And I thought Arthur Etienne, the cup specialist, was amazing off the bench.
Yeah,
One for his like aggression carrying, but also that period of play, that sort of last 20 minutes, it was like he effectively became, which obviously he does, and he's sort of a winger by trade who plays scrum half to enable that 6-2. But they had two full-time scrum halves on the pitch, and I think it showed. Like the pace of ball they got in the last 15 minutes, because it did, like Retier just took it upon himself. If Luku wasn't there, he's like, we're just gonna go. I thought he was awesome. Was really
he is.
really impressed.
He is also someone that doesn't look big in the flesh. My girlfriend was like, "Is that he's
To
tiny?"
address the balance,
Yeah,
like,
because like they were warming up in front of us, so we kind of saw quite a lot of the Bordeaux bench. And she was like, "Is he big enough to play rugby?" sort of thing.
yeah,
But yeah, he's cup specialist, as you say. I think he's finally getting a little bit of recognition as a kind of a brilliant all round player he is.
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, what a day, exhilarating set, like the cliches slash I'm an absolute loser, but like hairs on the like goosebumps and hair standing up did happen quite a lot in that second half, like the roar of the crowd or the pace of the play and stuff like that. It was very obviously we were very lucky to be there, and we paid €10 each to be there,
Can't
which is
say fairer than that.
just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
outstanding. The other, just to quickly round off the European stuff, then, early on the Saturday, there will be, Toulouse won't be there, but Toulon have made it to a semi-final, with a really, really impressive win over Glasgow, it must be said, which I managed to catch. I saw a lot of rugby this weekend, which was quite agreeable.
my favourite rugby weekend of the year, the quarterfinals. I think it's the best rugby weekend of the year because you get at least 4, if not 8, like high quality knockout, big intensity, dramatic games. Well, you should do anyway.
Yeah, it was awesome. And Toulon, I think, don't want to kind of linger on them too long because we've got guests to talk to, but a fantastic result given their travails in the league. I think their 11th came in. A couple of brilliant post-match interviews. Junior Kapoku, who basically said fuck about 15 times. I actually missed it to start with, and I came back in the front room, and my wife was like, "That's the most amazing interview I've ever seen." After, like, he just absolutely went for it. So that was cool. And then Zach Mercer was very in his sort of northern drawl. telling him about how like the woman at WH Smith said they were going to lose when they landed and stuff like that. So there was definitely they spoke quite a bit about that sort of siege mentality stuff. It was a strange game in the sense that I think from a Glasgow perspective, a lot of Glasgow commentary online afterwards, like huge missed opportunity, shouldn't have lost at home to that Toulon side, which is fair enough. I think you also look at the 2-15s and you're like, ooh, that. And it talks, I think, to the fact to how underwhelming and how much Toulon have underperformed. I mean, obviously, like there's some high quality players, like some amazingly high quality players in that Glasgow side, particularly like the back row and with Tui Pelotu and the guys on the wing. But so are there for Toulon. And yeah, the first half they were actually pretty wasteful in possession. Discipline was shocking from Toulon, like such silly penalties, ref back chat. And they managed to just kind of steady it a bit in the second half. And then it was the Brex try, which was an absolute worldie to kind of seal it. And Glasgow just couldn't quite get back in it. But yeah, fair play to them. I think there was probably a bit of a feeling of it being their season. And I think the exciting thing, and I'm aware I'm rambling a bit now, but the exciting thing if you're a Toulon fan is I think there's so much more in the tank from that performance. There were still so many errors. The line out in the first half was like 20%. They lost pretty much every single one of their line outs. Yeah, and hopefully, I don't know, you might have someone like Ludlam coming back in. Serran was on the bench, so maybe he'll start in a few weeks. Yeah, exciting times from them. But yeah, Jean-Baptiste Gross was incredible yet again. Just him and Sinclair as a front row pairing have been monumental in an iffy season. Very, very
big
impressive.
That as well with Priso out for all season. The rest of the season with his I feel like there's a lot of Achilles injuries knocking around in rugby at the moment, just as an aside. But I caught the last 4 minutes of this in a bar in Saint-Emilion. We were kind of waiting for a taxi, which then ended up taking ages, so we had to have a couple of glasses of wine. And then it was closely followed by the allo of sports coverage, match of the day. I couldn't believe that when I saw it. I was like, sorry, that cannot be true. But when on Canal Plus, when they show the English football, it is called Match of the Day, Z-E.
So good. It's just more of a sense of humour in France. That's excellent. I want to hear a bit more about your trip and also look ahead to you're heading back this weekend.
Yeah, I feel quite unprepared for that, I have to say. It feels yesterday like genuinely slightly anxious on the flight back, being like, I can't believe I'm going back to France in a few days. I don't actually like that. I don't like France anymore.
Well, we'll talk about that in a sec. But one of the main reasons you're going is to watch massive game in Pro D2, the Lon Derby, Mont-de-Marsan versus Dax. And while you were flying back last night, I caught up with Quinn's Kameishi Sea Waves and formerly Wasps, team in Japan apparently.
Oh wow!
Wasp Biarritz and now Dax second row Charlie Matthews to get his thoughts on all things Dax and look ahead to that game. Enjoy it. Charlie Matthews, a big welcome to the Rosbiff Rugby podcast. Thank you for joining us. How are you? How's the week started over in the sunny south of France?
Yeah, very well. Thanks for having me. It's actually, we've had some British weather this week. It's 10 degrees today and raining. So the boys were getting stuck into me that I'd brought the English weather to Dax. But no, it's great to be here. And I've actually I've got to admit something to you. I got fully done by your April Fool's joke. I nearly sent you a message saying, "Oh my God, you got Johnny Wilkinson! Congrats, guys! You've made it. Well done." But because I actually read the post on the 3rd because I hadn't been on Instagram, hadn't seen it, and then got done. Posthumously.
Posthumously, you're telling me I was away in Italy and I saw that go out and had a sudden sort of.
You didn't even know.
I can't believe Rob's got Johnny on without me. That's absolutely outrageous. He stitched up everyone. But one day we can dream. Yeah. You guys, Dax had a really good win at the weekend in what looked like, I saw a couple of the highlights earlier, slightly more clement weather against Angoulême in a bit of a tight one. I saw you were in, I think, Rugby Rama's team of the week. So yeah, double congrats. How did it all pan out on Friday?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, not sure how that happened. Must have been a bad week for the rest of the second rows in the league. Was not expecting that. Yeah, it was. I'll use all the cliches. Win's a win, but it was a messy game. Dogfight. Blame the ref. Blame whatever. But yeah, we got it. That's the nature of it. I've been in the relegation battle for all 3 seasons I've been in France, so I'm used to it now. And yeah, teams just come out of nowhere towards the end of the season. It's yeah, it's tough. It is tough. It's such a tight league, as you know. So anyone can beat anyone on their day. But we got over the line. And it's good to play against my old friend Ben Botica from Quins as well. So that's good.
Yeah, so he's been back. We had him on the show going back a little while ago now. I know he's had a few injuries. Were you getting stuck into him a few little shots to let him know you're there, or is he tends to, when we've seen him play, we've seen him a couple of times in France, he does tend to glide about. Quite a hard man to lay a finger on. I don't know if you had much luck.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually I'd be nowhere near him, but I did get him in one ruck at the end there. But he's only got himself to blame. I told him to go easy on us, and it was tight at the end there. They were attacking in our 22, and he was just sort of chilling at the front of a ruck. So I had to get stuck into him. But no, it was as I say, good to just get the win.
Great stuff. So Charlie, you've been over in France. I think this is it third season? I've got that right. A couple of years at Biarritz. Can you just maybe talk us through briefly like how it came about? I know you obviously spent a lot of time at Quins, Wasps, spell in Japan maybe in there as well. So yeah, how is, I guess you're sort of part of the French furniture a bit now, but how was that transition over? How did the Biarritz and then I guess the Dax move, a club that keen to hear a bit more about, sort of eventuate in the first instance?
Yeah, so I was back at Quins after Japan and Wasps. So it's great to be back at Quins, and then it looked like I just sort of finished my career there. It felt like a natural sort of full circle thing. And then a certain Joe Launchbury came on the market, and I just couldn't compete. So I was off on the market, and it's tricky when you're out of a job in the Premiership and you're looking at France, because as I'm sure you're aware, everything happens so late. So you're getting to the last game, you've done all the fanfare at the club, saying goodbye, whatever, and then you're like, right, now what? You got your agent on speed dial, and he's sort of feeding you all this information. And, oh yeah, this club's got you on their shortlist, but it must be lost in translation. A shortlist in French is sort of 60 players. It must be, because the amount of people I know who go on hundreds of shortlists and never eventuates to anything. Anyway, so got to sort of transfer deadline day. Nothing had come through. It was sort of really stressful time. And then I think me and my wife even had like a little tear, like, right, that's it, it's over. I got a job at Whitgift just as a backup sort of plan. Well, not even a backup, it was looking likely. And then what was it, Sunday night or Monday morning after the deadline had gone, oh yeah, Biarritz is still in it. They've had an extension, some sort of financial thing. Are you keen? And like, bearing in mind, I've been on shortlists for Aurillac, Grenoble, wherever all these clubs, you might say slightly worse location clubs, to then have Biarritz come through was just unbelievable. Yeah, so it was just obviously, where do I sign? And then 2 days later, I was in training.
Amazing.
So I had to call Whitgift and apologise. And I was actually working for my mate Rob Buchanan. Do you remember Hooker for Harlequins? Yeah. He's got a butcher's shop, so I was chopping up some meat and mopping his floors.
No way.
And then had to hang up my apron, and that was it. On the plane I went.
that those butcher skills must have served you. There's some pretty decent meat down in the Basque Country, some half decent fare. Have you been able to indulge in your time down there?
Absolutely, that is obviously one of the massive pluses of playing in France. Just yeah, the produce is second to none. Yeah, it's even just the most basic food in the supermarket is just such good quality. So yeah, my good friend Will Collier is a massive foodie, so that's our main topic of conversation.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. I had no idea that it was so that you butcher, teacher, and back to rugby player in what sounds like a matter of weeks. That's pretty remarkable. How was we had Billy Sirlon, who I don't know if you overlap with him at Wasps at all. But he was talking a little bit about his time at Biarritz before he went to Agen, and now obviously doing great things at Leicester, and how it wasn't necessarily the most straightforward place to transition into, Biarritz. How did you find it, having come from Wasps, Japan, Quins, and obviously, it sounds like pretty late notice as well. How was that kind of transition in?
I think, I did cross over with Billy, so it was great to have him in my second year at Biarritz. He's a great guy. But I think, like what I just said about sort of pretty much being retired and like a phoenix rising from the ashes the last minute, it just sort of made me grateful to be just on a rugby pitch. I didn't care where it was. I was living in an amazing place. I've got two young boys at the time, and boys like Jonathan Joseph was there, Zach Kabrigi was there, and they were like, oh, this rucking drill was rubbish, or this pattern of play is rubbish. And I was just there, like, massive grin on my face, just like, I'm just happy to be here, guys. Like, really, I could have been, taking the under 14 C's hockey team. This is just great. Then, obviously, as I got back into the swing of being a professional rugby player, there were things that frustrated me, but different situation with me, I think, and I think I got on really well with the forwards coach, Roger Ripple, who interestingly is now the forwards coach at Mont-de-Marsan. So I'll be seeing him Friday, but. Yeah, it just depends, doesn't it? It's and then move on to what you asked about me moving to Dax. It's the whole coaching staff obviously changed, and then the new coaching it wasn't a fit, and I ended up at Dax, and fortunately I haven't had to move far, 40 minutes down the road. So I found another coaching setup and culture that does really suit me. It's just like that in rugby, isn't it? You look at Billy, he was doing well at Biarritz, and then obviously they just sort of let him go. Went to Argent and tore up, and now look, he's Saxons this year or something. So yeah, amazing.
Nice. And tell us, before we maybe get into how things are in the nitty gritty of the rugby, tell us a little bit about Dax as a club, as a place. It's still on our list. We haven't managed to sneak down there just yet. Beyond the fact that we know that the fans tend to be pretty vociferous, and perhaps one of the smaller places and clubs nominally or monetarily or whatever you want to call it. I can't say we know masses about it. So yeah, I don't know if you're able to give us a little bit of a potted kind of history or your understanding of what makes Dax tick.
Yeah, so amazing. I couldn't believe the difference in clubs, just down the road, and yet the whole setup's different. The crowd, the supporters, everything's different. The town, the whole feel of the place is different. I think Biarritz obviously, unfortunately, have this sort of chip on their shoulder from years of success, and that is an unbelievable amount of pressure that filters down through the town, through the supporters, through the club, on everyone to get back up to that level. And it's tough. And then obviously when you've got the instability of changing presidents, changing coaches, all that sort of stuff every year, it's you can understand why they haven't found that consistency. But I think when I speak to people about Dax in terms of the rugby side, I see it similar to how Exeter were when they came up from the Championship. Like, no big superstars, or maybe a couple, but real just like humble blokes from Exeter played together for years. They're best mates off the pitch. They're willing to give that extra mile for their teammates, and it just really shows on the pitch. I mean, that's what everyone speaks about in culture, isn't it? That just epitomised it for me. There's no fancy high performance centre, not a massive budget. Boys just muck in, and we don't even get food at the training ground, but everyone's just happy to be there. I guess it's a really, really nice feel to the club.
And you mentioned like there's that kind of optimism amongst the fans and that sort of thing. I mean, I think Dax have been back in Pro Day for, is it 3 seasons?
Yeah, that's right.
First year back, finished 5th or 6th, did really well. Last year, I think we're pretty comfortably above relegation, and obviously you find yourselves for various reasons in a bit of a scrap at the moment. What is I think from afar we've seen, obviously some of the guys in your squad, you do have some of quite literally, it looks like the biggest men in France in some of your front rows in particular. What is we don't see, we see a little bit more Pro Day there now, but we haven't seen a huge amount of Dax that's being streamed. What is the when you're playing your best rugby, is it big men from the Lons department battering people, or is there a little bit more subtlety and finesse that perhaps we're missing from afar?
Without giving all our secrets away before the derby weekend, I think the coach that's come in this year, Etchito, which was great for me as well, coming to a new club, but then also a new coach coming in, so it didn't feel like I was being put into a already established structure. He coaches very English, actually, which I love, like super structured, super detailed. To quote Colin Osborne, my old academy coach at Harlequins, freedom through structure is what we've got. Like you've got, right, you have to be in this shape, you have to be in this place, non-negotiable. But within that, when you've got the ball, you're going to then always have 3 options. And everyone knows what those 3 options are. And if those 3 options happen, everyone knows what to do about it, rather than the more traditional French jouet, and with, speaking about the big guys, having that structure, they can almost hide in the structure. If they're tired, they can sit on the inside of another carrier and just clear the ruck, and that's fine. They know where they're going to be. They're not wasting energy. And then behind that, the backs, they're phenomenal. Every game they just impress me so much with their, not just their like tactical kicking game, but just their handling, some of their offloads and contacts and decision making when it's on to play from the 22 and not. It's been really impressed. There's no, like I said, no massive international stars, but they're all just really solid players, to be honest.
Is there anyone in that group? I know obviously he was on loan and it was whilst you were at Biarritz, but there was a little bit of a spotlight last year on Dax with Noah Nene, who's obviously gone on to play for France, and it's looking pretty tasty up in the top 14. And I think scored his kind of viral show-stopping try against Mont-de-Marsan last year? Maybe. Yeah. Is there anyone in that group at the moment we should be keeping an eye on, the sort of future stars, or is it kind of a bit of a sum of parts situation?
I think it is a sum of parts, but one guy who really impressed Friday just gone, and actually in the last Angoulême game before Christmas, there's a little winger called Louis Couget, and I've named him Cheslin Couget because he's about 5'10". Just looks like he's got like this sort of coiffed sort of Ethan Harrow-esque haircut. Just looks, you wouldn't think anything of it, and he just try and find his individual setup for this try. He just bounced, that sort of Colby ping pong effect where he just bounces off 3 or 4 guys and gets through a gap where there wasn't one. Just keep an eye on him. He could be one to watch for the future for sure.
I did see the kind of potted highlights. Was he the number 11 from Friday night
with the knee strap?
Yeah, who I think you basically does exactly as you described for the first try, where there is no right at all. Like he basically disappears and then pops up. It's okay. We'll have to keep a close eye out. That's an interesting one. So ahead of just before we get on to the derby game this weekend against Mont-de-Marsan, it's been fairly storied this year. It hasn't been totally seamless, kind of with a bit of off-field stuff with Dax and like a pre-season points deduction, and then I think it was another 9 points slammed on mid-season, which without you guys would be arguably like maybe an outside shot at the barrage. Without getting into the weeds of it too much, how is dealing with that as a group when you are, it sounds incredibly well coached, well structured, pulling in the right direction on the pitch, and then you get something like that slapped on you?
Yeah, I think like you said, it's bizarre because you usually, if you're in the situation we're in the relegation battle, things aren't going right, and you're pointing fingers. There's conflict, there's anxiety, but it's been weird because all season we've actually been doing really well. So it's just such a bizarre situation, and actually it's taken the coaches to remind us every week, like, hey, look, we're 15th, but actually we're 6th, or actually we're 7th, or actually we're 8th. So like, play like it, have the confidence that we are a top 8 team. Don't play like you're fighting for your lives, kind of thing. Like, don't keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is great. We're going to tweak it a bit, obviously, but yeah, don't stress, guys. You're on the right track, and like I said, it's a tight group, and obviously I don't know exactly what all the Frenchies are saying in the changing room all the time about it, but within our group, we know that it's not the coach's fault either. So we're happy to play for them, and it's above the powers that be, sort of whatever it was, not handing their homework in on time, or the dog ate it, or whatever. It's who knows what happened, but hopefully those issues are all sorted for next year, and we can move forward.
Nice. Mont-de-Marsan then this weekend.
Yeah,
pretty sure you guys gave them a fair old dusting earlier in the season in the Lawn Derby, if I've got that right. Is that first question is, well, the one at Dax, what was that a sort of spicy affair? Did it live up in terms of fans and the classic kind of French derby behaviour for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think something I've often told people is that the 4,000 or 5,000 at Dax is often louder than the 14 we used to get at the Stoop. Quinn's fans of old will not enjoy me hearing that, but enjoy me saying that. But yeah, it's true. It's unbelievable. You just got this relentless band playing the whole game, no matter what's going on the pitch. This band is just rocking out. It's messed up a few line-out calls in the past, but it's amazing. Especially not knowing the history of that derby. I've had to read up on it, but they're in full force. Even the pre-season friendly we did against them was, you could really tell it was, like you said, spicy. There's that extra edge to it. And reading up on it, I think you would have seen the rugby man came to Dax recently.
Yeah,
he wrote an article, and I think that was a lot of the stuff he wrote was new to me. I think the 1963 loss in the final was to Mont-de-Marsan. That was one of their five losses. They've never won the Brennus. They're the reigning runner-upper.
Oh yeah. Elgin we've had on from the Times on the pod a couple of times, but he does make us look pretty uninformed and thick very quickly. So have to keep it to a minimum. But yeah, it's obviously a real storied one. And then given the relative positions, and I mean Mont-de-Marsan have actually had a half decent second half to the year, having been way adrift. But I'm guessing now, I know there's always so much talk right around rotation and squad depth and things in Pro Day Dirt. I'm guessing this weekend is, I don't know if the team's out, but it's full click, take it on, and it could be a massive result in that kind of end reckoning, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So four games left. I think we need to sort of win two to be not safe, but be okay. Yeah, this week's definitely one of them to tick out. It'd be great to finish it with the following two, and then we can relax for the last two games. We certainly don't want it to go down to having to get a win at Van away last game of the season. I think that would not be a position we'd like to be in. But anything's possible.
Yeah, well, quite. And yeah, I tend to agree. That's not maybe the ideal one, but a fantastic place. I don't know if you've been up to Van, probably up at Biarritz, right? It's an amazing place. But yeah, awesome spot. Well, in the as I said, I think at the top of the call or just before it, Rob, who's currently I think slightly delayed getting back from his trip to Bordeaux, is going to be there with a couple of characters that we know for that game. So I'm hoping there'll be a couple of English and a slightly aggressive Welshman in Dax's corner this weekend. We've not had anyone on from Mont-de-Marsan, so we can definitely say that. But one thing we're always keen on, and I think actually they are staying in Biarritz. I don't know. You mentioned your enjoyment of the place, the culture, the cuisine. Any kind of Charlie Matthews recommends for, well, I guess both Dax for future reference and from your time in Biarritz?
Yeah, so well, for Dax, I had to say there's a bar that's owned by a couple of the boys, Legatoon. I'm not sure if I'm getting the pronunciation right, but Google Maps it. Yeah, that's a good spot before the game. In Biarritz, well, there's plenty of spots there. Probably say Eden Rock. It's a little bar just above Petit Plage in the centre of the town there. It's not a bad spot there. But yeah, loads of great Aussie sort of surfer style coffee shops in Biarritz. So yeah, I'll have to tell him to hit me up when he's there, and I'll send him the details.
Nice, I will do. Fantastic, Charlie. Thank you so much for joining us. Very best of luck both this weekend in the massive derby game away and for the rest of the season for Dax, and as you say, hopefully onwards to slightly less chaotic things next year rather, and looking up the table. But yeah, thank you for your time and all the best.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Cheers.
Rob, you need to get in touch with Charlie when you're in Biarritz on Thursday. He said he'll give you the down low on a few places.
Okay.
And also, I'm doing this knowing that you haven't listened to this interview, so I'm going to keep it quiet because there's a meat related story in there that when you come to listening to this later, I think you'll really enjoy. So
okay.
But yeah, thank you to Charlie. Should be an awesome game. Dax, who, as he said, they're in that relegation mix by virtue of two separate deductions totaling 14 points. And the constant message from them has been, actually, we're a top 8 team. We've got to play like it, believe like it, which is such a bizarre but interesting place to be in. It is undoubtedly the pick of the games this weekend, and I think is going to be on FR UK as well.
It is indeed, yeah, which is really cool. And the earlier time of 6 o'clock, well, set 10 to 6 is the coverage starting. And yeah, because it's a 7 p.m. game in France, it's the kind of televised one. I should stress it is derby weekend, but kind of when we were eyeing up the fixtures to choose, I kind of wanted, we had a few options, and it was that one that I kept coming back to because it's the one with the most, even from 3-4 weeks ago, clearly had the most riding on it, and also is the fiercest derby of the lot in terms of in Pro Day, French rugby, world rugby almost is one of the fiercer ones. But it's a proper derby. There's some consternation about these confected derby weekends these days, and I know a lot of the Bayern fans don't necessarily call Pau a derby. Try telling the ticket sales that, because they're already sold out. So yeah, if you know of anyone that's got 3 tickets to Bayonne v Pau on Saturday, please get in touch, because I would like to go. I will be in Bayonne as a Po fan, and I currently don't have any tickets because they sold out before going on general sale. So clearly there is appetite for that rivalry in Bayonne, but they are half an hour down the road or 40 minutes down the road from each other. They are too historic. I think Elgin did a piece from when they went to Dax a couple of weeks ago about Dax and their relationship with Mont-de-Marsan and the Landes culture. So yeah, proper derby. Looking forward to getting stuck into it. Looking forward to seeing Mont-de-Marsan as well. Last time when I did that game, it was kind of an in and out job, but looking forward to seeing the town. Maybe visit the Bull Ring, which is a big part of the culture down there as well.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. I'm very, very jealous. I'll be eyeing up the inside of a Irish pub in Ireland, so maybe that's worse. I don't know. Won't be able to find myself a Kilkenny Red, a la the best Irish bars in France, but I'll be on the lookout, see what I can find to break up the Guinness and Beamish. Quickly then, just before we talk about the league, this is 2 trips on the spin. I want to hear briefly going back about anything new in Bordeaux, because Bath fans will hopefully, and I imagine, be travelling in pretty big numbers in a few weeks to the Matmut Atlantique, which is obviously, it's not the Chaban del Mas, but is in its own right an absolutely phenomenal place to watch sport. And we went for the same fixture against Exeter 3 years ago now. Quite an incredible atmosphere that is sometimes not the case in some of those more modern stadia, I'd say.
And that was La Rochelle as well. So it was coming 2 hours down the road or by train, and it was still raucous. So I imagine with Bordeaux in town being the home team, that could be quite lively. Something. Yeah, it's an awesome stadium.
Discover anything new?
Yeah, a couple of new places.
Your trip out to the vineyards.
A couple of new places. A couple of old favourites like Comptoir d'Etienne, still amazing. The mashed potato was phenomenal. The steak was amazing. Great wine, loved it. There is a Avant Comptoir de la Palais. Went there, popped in there for a little bit of some pig's ears and some foie gras and some white asparagus, and so some kind of local or regional. I think we always say they're Basque. I think they're actually Bayern. There's a Bayern flag, like a little plinth outside saying certified Bayern, like produce. I don't know, something like that. In that square near there, we kind of hang around there a bit. There's Le Sur-Mesure, which is a craft beer bar, great range, but there's also a place called Merlot, which is obviously quite an easy one to remember. It was quite a cool bar with, as you might expect, lots of different red wines on offer. We went to a really good place yesterday for lunch, and the guy spoke amazing English, despite never being... We were like, this guy must have an English parent or lived in... And he's like, no, just got it from gaming when I was younger. I was like, wow, why can't watching French rugby highlights have the same impact on my French?
Fantastic.
That was Complan Terra. It's quite central, that. It's near... I'm going to have to find that. But yeah, I would say Sip Coffee. I think I've been there before, but the coffee there is genuinely really, really good.
No UHT milk?
I don't think so, no. We had some excellent sandwiches. Complan Terra was the wine bar that was really, really cool. Like central natural wines. And also... I'd say we went to Fortiche, which was a little sandwich shop. It's kind of, I'd say, better than the sandwiches we had when we stopped through in Bordeaux last time, Rich.
Okay.
Like really, really good. Kind of fairly simple, classical, but a few different options. That was really nice. And then Saint-Étienne, Saint-Emilion, I loved it. Absolutely love Saint-Emilion. It's bigger than you'd kind of downplayed its size. I was expecting it to be like the same size as my village on the Isle of Wight, and it's decent enough size town. But it's amazing how a place can be so obsessed with wine. Like everything there is wine. It's amazing. And the vineyards were Went to the one you went to, Frank Main, and the person there was lovely. And we were like, oh, we need to catch our train. What's the quickest you can do? It's like, oh, that's about half an hour. It's like, maybe I could do it in 20 minutes. We're like, ideal. And like €18 for tasting. Had a bottle of wine from 1993, which is, wow. I can't think I've had too many older than that. That was really cool. And then there's one on the way, basically from town, the first one you see, which was recommended to me by a friend who was very into his wine. But it's called Chateau La Gaffalière, which was really, really good. We really like that guy there as well. Just literally just pop in and like try some wines. It's great. love it. You go into a shop and you basically get offered wine and you're like, well, I'm gonna have to buy something now. What a shame. What a shame it's only €9 for this bottle of red. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome place.
So doable as well from Bordeaux, right?
Yeah.
Did you get the train straight to Saint-Emilion?
We did. We actually were cutting it fine, having got our e-bikes or returned our e-bikes. So we actually just got a taxi back. It was like Bolt was like €50 maybe, and it's like,
oh wow,
well, actually that's not too bad. It's quite a long journey, but like we were kind of like, let's maximize our time here. Let's feel like we've kind of done it, given it a fair crack. So yeah, you can do it by taxi, but yeah, the train was like €18 return. So,
and I guess when I turned on the football at the weekend, I saw Michael Oliver refereeing the Arsenal game. So I was like, oh damn, he's not going to be on the train for Rob next time, perhaps. Not. Cool. Pro Day Deux. Sorry, I've gone a bit around the houses here. Pro Day Deux. It's heating up top and bottom. I did catch actually on Saturday night the Oyonnax Brive game, which I would say was quite a statement of intent from Oyonnax.
Yeah, I've seen the first half.
Both,
serious performance from Oyonnax
in terms of result and the nature of performance, like so physical, and physical is can be used to describe all manner of things, but their carrying was so aggressive and their scrum was absolutely marmalising the Brive pack. And they didn't have Lucas Silva, and I know Marcel Mandeveur is injured, but I think he's Achilles injury, done for the season.
Yeah, Achilles, another one with an Achilles injury.
Yeah, and it was just it was quite something to watch, and to be honest, it just makes me really excited for the barrage. Because I mean, Agen are still not out of it; they're only 7 points behind Brive. They got really good. They get an away win where Aurillac in Bo Farence's 50th game for Agen.
Ah, nice.
Which is very cool. So congrats to friend of the pod, Bo. His brother as well, Zach. Amazing away win. What a time to do it for Nevers away at Biarritz, which makes it very interesting at the bottom and very worrying for Biarritz. But yeah, going back to Oyonnax, they were imperious. And I think that barrage, the semi-finals that you've got, I mean, such a fantastic mix of styles of team within that top six currently. Some big forward packs and guys like Colomier and Valence who can tear teams apart from distance. Some pretty star-laced squads. I just think it's going to be. I think it's going to be an amazing end to the season once that's all shaken out.
I think it's a huge result because I don't think Oyonnax, like at home, I think they said on commentary in the previous 3 games had racked up like 150, 170 points or something ridiculous. So at home they've been really good. But I think Brive's form has been. It looked like they were clicking into gear and they sent a strong side. Obviously the FR UK guys made a huge thing about, quite rightly, about Courtney Lawes playing and him returning to England. And like the fact that he played, Cooney was back. And for them to, I guess they just didn't have the platform, did they, to work off? But for Oyonnax, I wasn't expecting it to be as comfortable a victory at all. I actually predicted Brive to win. So the fact that they've mixed it back up, or kind of, it's tighter in between those 4 barrage sides than you perhaps might have thought. Colomier went all right away at Valence Romans, didn't they? But ultimately Valence Romans won again in one of their big home games against the other top 6. So that gap is slightly tighter. Obviously, Colomier have the slight advantage of being at home. I think the scrap to get the home games for Brive and Oyonnax, I think they're probably the 2 teams that need it most. Maybe Provence, but I think they need those home games, and that makes it such a scrap.
Yeah, it's getting very, very interesting. Looking ahead to this week, I think we've already got the pick of the games. The other ones that maybe stand out, Oyonnax going to Grenoble, who have had a rough old season. That would be a game they're definitely eyeing up. You would think, and then there's a couple of massive ones at the bottom. Nevers hosting Valence and Béziers hosting Provence, which you would think the away teams will very much be sensing blood in those, which could create some pretty interesting matchups. Looking forward to it.
I can't believe Nevers beat Biarritz away. That is absolutely startling. Remarkable. Just want to shout out. So the team, and it's on the front page of Midi Olympique yesterday. Obviously not the main headline with Bordeaux on grand, as it said, but at the bottom it called out like Béziers red alert almost sort of thing. There was like a or alert or alarm. I can't remember this. I can't quite see it from here, but yeah, they are the team now in 15th, having lost to Van 71-0, and they were obviously never going to target that game. They sent a really weak side, and so they have. Well, they've got a couple of key games, but to have Provence in town is not what you want. Just want to shout out Van though on this. Rayan Tafili, the son of Paga Tafili, played, and they played in the same game, which is really, really bloody cool. Father and son playing loose head and tight head is ridiculous. The other guy, and he finished off one of the tries of the round on the Pro Day Socials, Joachim Senga Kuo, and I feel like over the Six Nations we kind of didn't quite do the under-20s justice, and France winning the under-20s. He was a standout player, or really, really good player in the under-20s. I think he's only 18, and I think that was his debut for Van on the wing. He played at fullback in the France under-20s, but that is a name to look out for, Joachim Senga Kuo, or he's just Joachim Senga in some places. He scores finishes off a really lovely try, which you can see on the Pro Day socials. But yeah, one to watch out for.
Fantastic. Well, Pro Day, we're forgetting the top 14. It is Derby week. Been totally blindsided by all the European action. What are the picks in that? Toulouse sellout on the Saturday night showpiece game should be a beaut.
The Paris Derby is pretty big. Racing hosting that one. 2 points outside the playoffs. Stade Francais currently in third, level with Pau. I think the fact that Pau have got an away game at Bayonne. Do we know if Bayonne are good these days? Are Pau stuttering? That's quite a big game. It could be, if Pau win that, then they are they are well placed for the top two. If they don't, then they could really slide down to kind of the lower end of the barrage. I feel like it could be a bit of a momentum shifting game for Section Paroise. And then La Rochelle at the other one. Or La Rochelle, I guess, well, that's quite a relatively big, that's more of a derby, La Rochelle Bordeaux, but La Rochelle hosting Bordeaux. Bordeaux, you'd imagine, might be a little bit rotated after 2 big weeks. So, yeah, I think La Rochelle, good chance to get a win and get themselves back into the reckoning for the barrage. But that's it. Toulon, who knows? Toulon away at Montauban, to be fair. That's quite a good one to get.
Yeah, you'd think so. All right, done and dusted. I'm sure you'll catch plenty of it in some bars somewhere this weekend, which will be a lot of fun.
Let us know if you're going to any of them as well. Great weekend. We've had some correspondence from guys going to some of the Derby weekend games. So yeah, get in touch if you're heading out there.
Please do. Anything by way of Petit-Fours, Rob? Let's bundle straight in.
One team we didn't mention there that have a game against Lyon this weekend. I don't know whether these guys will be playing. Did you see that the Panda and Lucas Tozan spent a night in the French equivalent of Her Majesty's Pleasure, or His Majesty's Pleasure?
Did they?
Yeah, after a bagarre in the centre of town.
Ooh.
They got in a fight.
Oh dear.
I haven't seen that much news about it though. But yeah, I did see it somewhere that I saw it that they'd been arrested, I think, or stayed a night in jail.
There we go. Well, talking of fighting, nice little segue here. 00 Seku is back. His spy training continues. But yeah, he's got his kind of handgun work down. His flying, his piloting seems to be going pretty well. The other thing you need as a spy, you've got to take it back old school, hand-to-hand combat. So what better way to do that than go and spend time and go and support a guy called Alexis Nicholas, or Barboza, who is a Parisian MMA fighter in the Ares Fighting Championship. 00 Seku was with him at the weekend. Looking very cool and massive, and making sure he's in good nick for when he gets deployed somewhere.
Did you ever play? I didn't actually have a Nintendo. Did you ever play Goldfinger? It's a Goldfinger.
Yes. Yeah.
On Nintendo. Goldeneye. Sorry. Yeah. And there'd be times where you'd just be without a weapon and you'd have to like backhand people or like stuff like that. That's the hand-to-hand combat that 00 Seku's preparing himself for when he's out of weapons. I've got a little quiz question for you, Richard, and I can't quite think how to work this out. But between the airport and Bordeaux, there is an indoor arena that is home of the Bordeaux Boxers, or Boxers Bordeaux. Boxers not as in 00 Seku MMA, but the boxer dog, but the logo is like a British bulldog type thing.
Okay.
Which I can't work that out at all. What sport do the Boxers Bordeaux play?
I reckon like ice hockey.
Bang on. Well done, Richard.
Yes.
Very, very good.
Happy
Yeah,
with
the
that.
indoor arena is an ice rink. I was like, what?
Nice.
I was like, what is that? At Google Maps, and it came up with ice rink. And I was like, okay, here's the people giving glowing recommendations on Google about going to see the Boxers.
Well, if ever you can't get tickets to Chaban Del Mas, you should go to that. I did actually look for you, Rob, to see if Aveyron Bayonnais FC were at home this weekend at the Stade Didier Deschamps, which they are, but it's on the Friday night, so you won't be able to replace. I thought that might be quite.
They
fun.
are one of the tickets you can buy from the Aveyron Bayonnais billetterie is Aveyron Bayonnais against Girondins Bordeaux at the Stade Jean Daugé, the FC. So I don't know what league that is. It's quite low down, but
very cool.
It's quite an interesting one to
National 2, I believe it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Would like to reiterate, if you know any way of me getting tickets to buy on Stade Jean Daugé this weekend, please get in touch. That would be greatly appreciated.
Hoping something will come through. Speaking of the word National, the big game at the weekend. Top 2, Albi hammered Nice.
Hammering,
7, which was very impressive from them. And then the only other thing I've got on my list is they're back in the kitchen in Toulon. Swan Rabat, who I think's been injured for most of the last few months. He was in the local restaurant, which I did look up, and I think is actually quite a long way outside. Brasserie Le Mougier, where Gail Drahan did a very nice looking Breton mussel dish. Burger au Marguerite de Canard et Saint Nectar.
Oh, lovely. That's a heart attack in a bun.
That's an aggressive burger.
Yeah. Saint Nectar's nice, like a soft cheese, isn't it?
All right, I think we're good. Wrapped up for another week. Rob, I need to let you go and pack for your imminent turn rounds. Like stars in their eyes, go through one door, come out with beret, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. I'm very jealous, but enjoy. Have a fab time. Massive thanks again to Charlie Matthews for joining us. I've promised him that there'll be 2 English and 1 Welsh Dax fan there. Maybe not keeping themselves quiet, depending on how the local fans take it. And in the meantime, Rob, people can follow us where?
We are at Rosbeast Rugby on all social media. Your social media channel of choice: YouTube, Instagram, X, Blue Sky. Check it out.
Fantastic. Get in touch. Let us know what you're doing for Derby weekend, and we'll be back with you very soon. I've been Rich. That's been Rob. We've been the Rosbeast Rugby podcast. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
C'est la